Welcome to the Captain's Run. I am back, Smithy. Look.
I was about to... Who is that voice?
Oh, wow.
We missed you last week, mate.
Seriously, there was a period there where I didn't think I was going to make it, Smithy. There was 48 hours where I thought it might be my last, but I pulled through. Some of the worst food poisoning you'll ever experience. But mate,
Okay.
it's not about me though, Smithy. It's
Yes.
about rugby league. And last night was the night of nights, the Dally M Awards. Nicho Hynes winning the Dally M with the record amount of points, 38 points scored for a bloke that's played seven. It's his first year as seven. Now, I first have to apologise to you about something, Smithy.
Okay.
I was on the red carpet. I was interviewing people. And I may or may not have offered Cam Munster a Broncos contract.
Oh, what?
So if he does come to the Broncos and you guys lose him, that may be my fault.
Were
So,
you
apologies.
there on behalf of the Broncos /
Well,
Kevin Walters?
I mean, we haven't spoken yet, but I'm sure they'd be open to the discussions with Munster, and I've made that first approach, mate. And
Okay.
hopefully,
And what was
hopefully
it?
he responds.
What was his response?
He just said, "Call me Kevy." He said, Call me Kevy.
Show me the money.
Show me the money. Holy. But let's get talking about the Dally M Awards, Smithy. Obviously, you've had plenty of experience at the Dally M Awards. Did you get a chance to watch it last night, mate?
I caught the back end, Campy. Yeah, I caught the back end of the program. Wonderful night, obviously. The night of nights for rugby league players, both the men and the women. And it was just, from a personal point of view, it was great to see Nicho Hynes take out the medal. There's a lot being said about his season this year and how good he was travelling. I think probably a few people a little bit surprised by the margin. I think that he won by in the end. But if you think back to the final month of football, the Sharkies, they won those. I think they won all four games quite convincingly, and he was a standout in all four. So that's where he picked up a lot of points towards the end. James Tedesco, again, just another stellar season. A big reason why they were part of the finals after starting, sort of quite slowly by Rooster standards. Ben Hunt, of course, he was favourite. Well, he was the leader when voting went behind closed doors. But just a wonderful night, and congratulations to Nicho Hynes. We've got him on, so stay tuned. We've got the Dally M medal winner on the show a little bit later on, but. Fantastic, mate. Yeah, just fantastic for a young man to go take over, the number 7 jersey at the Cronulla Sharks, turn their club around and put them in finals contention. They finished in the top 4, and it was mainly due to his season.
What an incredible buy from the Sharkies. It's one thing to come off the bench in a really good system at the Storm. And how many times have we, seen players at the Storm do really well, they go away, and they might still do okay, but they don't reach the same heights that they do at the Storm because, you've got the best system in rugby league. So for Nicho to go there in his first year, I think the Sharks recruitment, whoever took care of that or identified it or make sure the deal went through, that's a club-defining decision.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And I think he showed his quality when he was given opportunities at Melbourne, when there was several injuries to, whether it be Pappenhausen or Munster or Jerome Hughes through that 2-year period between 2020 and 2021, particularly 2021, where he played something like 24 matches in that entire season. So, he was a young man, and he come out and he spoke publicly about his ambition to, take control of a team of his own, rather than being sort of like a second or third string player that got called up when it was necessary. I think, he said, I want to be the player that takes control of a footy side. I want to play in the halves, and I want to lead a team around the park. And he certainly did that extremely well this year.
And what great news for the Sharkies going forward, because, you look over the last few years, you had, Townsend was basically their last strong 7 that won the comp in 2016 was the
16,
last time.
Yep.
And really since then, I think Chad had a really good year, 2018, but they really haven't had, I'm trying to think back, when was the last time the Sharks had the guy in the NRL, literally the Dally M. He's a poster boy, he's very marketable. He's also incredibly well-spoken, and he's standing up for things like mental health. He's a proud Indigenous man. I mean, it's everything you could want out of a footy player.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's turned himself into a marquee player, hasn't he? And yeah, we don't really have information, and we don't really want to know about it. But his sort of deal with the Sharks, but they got to be thinking now, we got to lock this guy in long term, because it's not just about, as you mentioned, Kempy, it's not just about his ability as a rugby league player. He has so much more to offer outside of the football field to that organisation.
And to rugby league too. I'm such a fan of Nicho, and I'm happy for the Sharkies, and it's all coming together really well. I think that looking forward, you've got a 26-year-old number 7. So the really scary thing is he's a couple of years away from his prime, and on top of all of that, he's going to get a few more years under his belt as the number 7. He's got Matt Moylan there, who's probably got 1 or 2 years left. Braden Trindle comes in, who is a young, good, really good 6. I'm excited for the Sharks. I'm really excited.
Yeah. Well, there was talk, about some cap issues with a lot of those outside backs coming off contract, but they've lost a couple this year. Tolman retired. Fafita is moving on, but they will be a force again next year. And particularly with a guy like Nicho Hynes, you'd like to think that he's only going to get better again next year. And they'll be better for the experience of this finals campaign as well. They obviously the results didn't go the way they wanted, bundled out in straight sets, but they'll learn from that. The younger players, sort of experiencing their first or maybe second final series campaign, they'll be better for it. And, of course, with the coach as well, like he's only in the very early stages of his head coach career, Craig Fitzgibbon. They'll sit back and review the season that was this year, and they'll look at things that they could be better at, situations throughout the year that they could have handled better. I think it's only positive for the Sharkies moving forward.
Now, going down this list, we've got James Tedesco on 33 points. Now, here's a stat for you, Smithy. I know you're a stats man. I know you love a bit of stats. Look, I just made that up. I don't know if you do. But basically, at 33 points, James Tedesco would have won 8 out of the last 10 years, and this is via Rugby League Guru on Instagram. The great Rugby League Guru put it together. 8 of the last 10 years, if he had scored 33 points, he would have won the Dally M. On top of all of that, one of the years he won it. So the last 9 out of the 10 years, Tedesco would have won with that points tally. Incredible stuff from him.
Well, and I mentioned that a little bit earlier, to pick up 33 points this year, given their slow start, I think, once the season got going for them and they started to build a bit of momentum, he was fantastic. And I reckon for mine, when State of Origin started, that's when Teddy, he just went mental from there. Like his form through the Origin series, even going back to Clubland, and then post-Origin going into the finals was just incredible. Like he was everywhere for the Roosters. Like he was playing not only fullback, but he was playing as a front rower. He was playing as a half. He was taking hit ups. He was taking one-off carries. He was playing as a link man. Fantastic. And still, what it says about him is that, he's been involved at this level now for such a long time, but yet he still finds himself in the top handful of players in our game. Like that, to me, that speaks quality. That speaks quality of him as a rugby league player, to be able to back that form up year on year on year. It's just outstanding. And as you said, like that points, it's a bit of it's a funny one. You can look at it in a couple of ways, but but to pick up 33 points and that tally, that total, could have won you a handful of Dally M's over the last decade. That's pretty impressive.
And you're right. You could look at it both ways. Maybe the standard wasn't as the race wasn't as tight or whatever. I just think it's how many years is this guy going to continue to put up? Some of the best footy that we've seen. It's just so impressive. Benny Hunt. Look, it's funny because in a normal year, 32 points, you'd be like, yeah, that's about right. And I think a lot of people are, I've kind of read some comments and people saying, I'm really surprised that Ben Hunt didn't poll higher. But I think that's just more due to the fact that Teddy and Hynes polled so high.
Yeah.
And so almost a bit misleading in regards to Benny Hunt and how great he did play?
Yeah, well, I think it's just, you sort of look at it the same situation as Tedesco, where 32 points. I'd suggest that would have won him a couple of Dally M's as well over the last decade. That total of points. There's probably been some Dally M medal winners finish on 32 points over the last 10 years. So I think what may have hurt Ben Hunt's chances, and it wasn't particularly his performances, because we all know of the effort that he put in this year, and whenever you watch the St George Illawarra game, he was miles above anyone else in his own team. But they didn't finish the year well. They had a lot of losses, and usually when your team loses, he may have picked up sort of 1 point here and there in the final matches. But yeah, that, like I said, Nicho Hynes, he finished with a flourish. Sorry. They won a lot of games late, and he was their best player on the field, and he streaked away in the end.
Just a quick shout out to Scotty Drinkwater and Dylan Edwards. What a great year from those two fellows. 23 points. And I think, at the start of the year, Scotty Drinkwater, he didn't even start. Tom Dearden got the jump at the 6 role, and I know he prefers to play fullback. Hamiso got the jump at the fullback role.
Yeah.
And so for him to pull that all together in a team that came 15th last week, then you got Dylan Edwards as well. What a year for two, I guess. You wouldn't predict that they would be coming, equal fourth.
Yeah. No, and they, both players have played outstanding. Obviously one's playing in a grand final this weekend, has played a huge part in as to why Penrith are playing in their third consecutive grand final. And Scott Drinkwater, like you mentioned at the start, he wasn't in the team. He didn't play first grade until round 5 this year, so he missed the first month. So there's a month of points that he could have picked up if he was playing, and if he was playing as well as he did in the remainder of that year. So he could have actually found himself on close to 30 points if he had played the entire year. But it's an impressive list, isn't it? And down below those boys, you got Mitch Moses 22, Daly Cherry Evans 21, Isaiah Yeo 20 points. Just there was, what is there, 2 forwards in that top sort of 10 players. It's Isaiah Yeo and Harry Grant. Harry Grant and Cam Munster finished equal on 19 points. Great effort by those two players. But, it's a good list. When you look at those players and you just think about, the games that they played, and you look back and you go, yep, that's where that top 10 needed to be. They've been the most influential players for their teams. And I think there's only a couple, like Daly Cherry Evans and Ben Hunt. They're the only two that didn't play in the finals. So every other player has been involved, and there's a few in there that are playing in the grand final this week.
Now let's get to the 2022 Dally M Team of the Year. You got Teddy at fullback. Your wingers are Alex Johnson and Joseph Suoli'i. You got centres of Joey Manu and Valentine Holmes. 6, Cam Munster. 7, Nicho Hynes. Props are Haas and Tarpane. Second row is a Kikau and Nanai. Lock is Isaiah Yeo, and coach is Toddy Payton. Now, Smithy, what did you think? Did they got most of it right, or were you a bit surprised at any positions?
No, I think they got most of those right. I did a Dally M team of my own last week on the captain's run with Jimmy Smith, and this team is pretty close. I think I only maybe had 3 other players. I think instead of Joseph Suoli'i, I think I had Daniel Tupou in there. Halfback, I had Ben Hunt, because I thought he was going to take out the Dally M, with Nicho as a very close second with Cleary. I had, instead of Kikau, I had Isaiah Papali'i in the back row with Jeremiah Nanai. And I think I had Joseph Tarpane in the front row with one other player rather than Payne Haas. So it would have been four different players in there compared to my team last week. So I actually it's a great footy side, isn't it? When you look at it, and not saying that the 4 that are in there instead of mine are wrong or don't deserve to be there, because they do. They had outstanding seasons. So that's a pretty good looking Dally M team to me. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I think it's really good. I think I guess the only I think everyone that's there definitely deserves to be there. Alex Johnson, obviously, third year in a row, top try scorer.
Yeah.
I reckon Tupou would have been putting pressure on that spot.
Yep.
I also reckon Appy Coruscant, I thought Harry Grant might put a bit of pressure there. But in saying that, I think towards the end of the year, we really started to see how impactful Appy Coruscant is. I almost feel like him going to the bench has made everyone realise the difference he brings to the side.
Yeah.
Because you can see, usually when he starts, it's like, oh, this is what the Panthers like. Whereas you can see what they look like without him starting. And,
Yes.
and as soon as he comes on, they completely change.
Yeah. And it's been a pretty big move, hasn't it, from Ivan Cleary to do so. And they put Mitch Kenny in there pretty early because he's quite aggressive type of player. And we'll get into that a bit deeper, talking about the game this weekend. But, yeah, the impact that Coruscant has had in this final series when he's come off the bench, it's been huge. And they're a completely different side, but the system that they have at the moment with him coming off the bench, it's working for them. So, I don't know, does it change this week? I'm not sure.
Oh, mate, it's going to be real. I'm so excited. Battle of the West. And they're actually, I feel like some grand finals, we'll get to it, I'll just say quickly, I feel like some grand finals, there's not really many tactical things that you would look at and go, this can change, this can change. They're all kind of like set in their 13.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like, the fact that Appy may not start and Mitch Kenny may start, Nathan Brown being on the bench instead of Bryce Cartwright, there's some real tactical things that we can talk about later in the show. Just quickly, Todd Payton, Coach of the Year.
Yep.
Is this, pretty on song, or do you think maybe Ivan Cleary, if he goes back to back, maybe he should have won it, or what do you reckon?
Well, I think it's mainly off where the Cowboys have come from, and where they ended up this year in sitting in the top 4 spot and played in a home prelim final. I think that was really what got Toddy home as Coach of the Year. Because it was quite a significant jump, wasn't it? And I guess it's easy to overlook Ivan's work as head coach of Penrith, because that's probably the most difficult thing to do is to stay at the top and now to be playing in 3 consecutive grand finals rather than being at the bottom, and really the only way is up from where the Cowboys were. I think that they finished 15th or something. But I think it's great reward for what he did there. He turned them around. I don't think many people had the Cowboys even playing finals, let alone finishing top 4. So for the work that he did with that young group in particular, Chad Townsend coming up from the Sharkies, and to have them play the way they did across that season was pretty impressive. So I'm happy for Todd Payton. I think it's well deserved that he got that Coach of the Year award.
Yeah, I agree. I think the turnaround from 15th all the way to getting a prelim at home, incredible. Now, I've got some text here. Hynes is a great player, no doubt, but Tedesco is not only the best fullback, he is the best player in the world. How many rep games did Hynes play? How many games did he play versus bottom 8 sides? Just remember, with the Dally M's in 2013, Sonny Bill Williams was clearly the best player in the comp, but didn't even finish in the top 20. News Limited versus Fairfax. Regards. Now, you might guess his name already, but it's called Rooster Muzz. So he sounds like a Roosters fan, which is a bit of it. Might be a giveaway, but, mate, and obviously I'll get your thoughts, but look, Teddy's incredible, absolutely incredible, but I think something has to be said for a bloke in his first year at 7 doing what Hynes did.
Yeah, and you know what, like Nicho Hynes, he didn't make the draw. He didn't complete the draw for the NRL and say, listen, we'll play more bottom 8 sides than what we will top 8 sides. Like he played what was in front of him. And there's been a lot of feedback, and there's a few texts here saying this morning for us can be on the show saying that the system's flawed, and Nicho, great player, but in the fair income department, I don't think this system truly reflects the best player in the comp. Nicho's had a fantastic season, but is the difference between him and James Tedesco that much? Something needs to be done about the points and all that sort of stuff. At the moment, that's what it is, and it's worked many times in the past. And as I said, whether the draw was favourable for the Sharks and Nicho this year, I just think it's null and void. Because if you go back in the history of the entire Dally M voting and all the winners, you'd probably find a handful of guys that had favourable draws compared to the rest of the competition as well. So Nicho just went out and played his best football this year and played against the opposition that was in front of him, and he picked up the points. It's that's just the way it is. And like if you go on to arguments about should he have got it rather than someone else? Well, have a look at guys that are elite players. This could be an argument as well. Like they're elite players, they're representative players, and they're playing in sides that don't have a lot of elite talent. They got good footballers, but they're a standout. Well, anytime they have a victory or their team plays okay, they're the ones that are going to pick up the points. So, maybe that's flawed in a sense as well, where those players picked up points because they're the only real standout in their team. There's many different ways you can look at it, but at the end of the day, he was given votes by people that understand the game. They've been involved in the game for a long time, and he is this year's Dally M winner and a deserved winner. So,
yeah, it's interesting, and on the flip side of that as well, and you alluded to this. So, just to further your point, Nicho Hynes' side, when you look at it, they finished second, and how many rep players do they have?
Yeah, that's right.
So he got them to second place. And again, I'm not saying by himself, but it's like, what's more impressive? Getting a club to second place with the squad that, the Sharkies has, or the Roosters with the squad they have getting to second place.
Yeah.
You could make the argument it's, harder for the Sharkies.
Yeah, and you know what, Kempy? Like, he said it so in his speech, didn't he? He said, like, the award, the Dally M award, voting him the best player in the competition. He said himself, like, it wasn't just, it's not just all him. He said that it's a reflection of the way his team played and the way his teammates helped him play this year. So small parts of that medal that he received last night, they're attributed to the performances of his teammates this year, which helped him do the things he did throughout this season. It's not just saying, well, he did that all on his own, because who knows? Like, if he stayed in Melbourne, he probably doesn't win the Dally M.
Yeah.
But because he went out to the Sharks, had an opportunity to wear the number 7 jersey, he was their chief playmaker, he was their man calling the shots, and like you cannot question the season that he had. You cannot question the season that he was so good. He was so good, and anytime they played well and had a victory, he was the man at the front of it all, leading the way.
Absolutely agree. Look, we're going to head to the news. After the news, we've got the great man on the phone, Nicho Hynes. We're going to chat all things Dally M, plus the 2022 season. Also, I'm going to ask him, how does he keep his hair so wet all the time? Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Now, I'm so excited because we have the great man himself, Nicho Hynes, on the line. You there, Nicho?
I'm here. How are you?
How you going, mate?
Cameron, how you going?
I'm going all right, mate. Congratulations. Huge night. How are you feeling today?
Thank you very much. I'm all right. I'm very tired. Very tired. I'm still in shock, to be honest.
Yeah. How many interviews have you done since you got the medal last night?
Oh, shit, I've done more interviews in the last probably 12 hours than I have in my life.
Well, let's freshen this up then. Let's talk about your hair.
Yeah.
What product do you use to keep your hair wet 24/7?
No product, man. I might have to make one, like the Nicho Hynes wet hair product or something, and we can do it together.
Well, Hynes' hair, mate. Hynes' hair.
Mate, it's the best time to do it now, mate. Strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, mate, big congratulations. Huge achievement, of course. The Dally M medal, voted the best player in the comp. When you left the Melbourne Storm and to take on this opportunity at Cronulla, did you ever think in the first season you'd be receiving the Dally M medal?
Oh, not at all, man. Honestly, not at all. I'd never even thought I would ever be up for contention of this medal in my career, to be honest. And I just knew going to the Sharks I had to work extremely hard, and I just wanted to prove a point that I can be a solid NRL player at the halfback position, and I just wanted to repay the faith that the Sharks showed me to do that. And I hope I've done that. I just didn't think that a Dally M was ever in contention for me, and I'm just in shock, man. It's just so hard to swallow because I just never thought of myself in that sort of caliber. Like, look at you, Smithy, you've won them before, and I never thought I could ever reach that height, and I've idolised you for a long time, and for me to be in a history book alongside you, it's pretty awesome.
Now, Nicho, you spoke last night about, I guess, a mental coach essentially, and it's really interesting because I feel like we have all the physical training we could ever need as rugby league players. Like the preseason is finely tuned these days, but your mentality is almost more important than your physicality. How did you come about, obviously, getting the coach, but also what practices does he put in place to make sure that you are mentally as fit as you are physically as fit?
Yeah, I knew leaving the Storm, because there's obviously no media and whatnot down there, and you're not very known in the streets and whatnot, unless you're Cameron Smith. But I knew coming to Sydney that there would have been a lot of external pressure, outside noise, and people going to be looking at me. If we win the game, they're looking at me. We lose the game, it'll be my fault. And I just knew that I needed to put things in place so I'm not thinking about all that stuff. And I've always been a bit of an overthinker and a stress head and a worrywart, and I've just always been that guy who's going to bed at night thinking about, what's going on next and who's hating me and who's doing this. I just didn't want that. And I watched heaps of stuff with Dan Carter and about the All Blacks and how, they lost a World Cup and they wanted to change something, and there's so many hours in the gym and so many hours on the field, but they never done anything on their mind. And it just intrigued me, And I come across one of my old mates who is all into all that sort of stuff, and he wants to further his career in the mindset space and get into working with NRL clubs. And we just thought, let's give it a go, and I'll do some things with him, and he'll learn from me. And it just sort of kicked off. And we do a lot of breathing, a lot of visualization, a lot of control of my own mind, and controlling what I can control and not worrying about all the outside noise. And we put things in place over the course of the season to making sure that I'm on top of that. And we've done like 3 Zoom meetings a week just to make sure I'm worried about the task and what task is now and what's happening during the week, and not looking too far ahead. So and a lot to do with off field as well. And he just wanted to make sure that I was going into a game with no weight on my shoulders of anything other than what is going on in that rugby league game and my game plan, and just going out and playing like a 10-year-old kid, having a lot of fun and trying to win a game of footy,
Now, mate, last night, you said you went there with no expectations at all, so you weren't nervous. But at what stage during the count did you think, geez, I might win this?
Yeah, well, my heart started pumping a little bit after. So I think they showed the score behind closed doors, and then the next 2 rounds, I didn't think I was going to poll any points, and I got, I think, a 2 and a 3, and then my heart started pumping. I looked at 60 and I was like, far out. My heart's pumping here a little bit, man. And he goes, and you've had a couple of good games, like more good games to finish with, so you could be on here. And I was like, holy crap, this is happening.
So you start thinking ahead, like you're thinking, well, we played that team. I set up a couple of tries. I scored a couple there. I might get points.
Yeah, I was like, Richie's like, what round's coming up? What to do this game? And I was like, I don't know. And me and him started talking about it a little bit, and I was like, well, I know everyone started talking about the Tigers and the Manly game, but I probably scored 3 points in each, and I was like, well, I know I've got these 2 games in the bag. What else have I got coming up? But like you said, I wasn't nervous one bit before it because I just didn't think I was a chance. And then when that period came, I was a nervous wreck.
Now, mate, with winning this, right, and thinking about, like, you still got a fair bit of time until next season comes around, but have you started thinking about that and whether it'll change the way you approach the game, or whether it adds more pressure to you going into 2023 as the Dally M winner?
Look, I'm not worried about the pressure. I think the pressure's a privilege, We're in a very privileged position to feel pressure coming into games, but I think I know that teams will be more aware of me I'll be on their tip sheets a bit more than I was this year, probably because they didn't really know what to expect out of me as this year in the halfback role. So I just got to come up with plans and new game plans and come up with a few more tricks to play a different sort of game when I need to, and just be more aware of they're going to be coming from me a little bit more, which is going to happen coming off of the season I sort of had. So a bit more video and trying game plan different areas where I can attack the game.
And I guess going into next year, Nicho, what part of your game do you think you need to improve on the most? Which is an ironic question. You just won the Dally M, but do you think there's a specific part you get better at?
Yeah, for sure. There's always things you can work on. I think for me is getting the all-round halfback performance. And what I mean by that is at the beginning of the year, I was probably trying to set up tries and create space for my outside men a hell of a lot and not too worried about my kicking game. I realised halfway through the year how important kicking game is, and seeing Nathan Cleary in the Origin camp, I just sat back and watched him and how much time he puts into it. So mid-year, I was probably more focused on nailing my kicking game, and then I sort of lost my running game. And then back in the year, I was worried about my running game, and I was still kicking, still passing and that. But I think throughout those different parts of the year, I was focused on different attributes where I just want to be the all-round, get that all mixed into one, and then have that consistent performance of having a kicking game, a passing game, and a running game all in the one game every single week. You know what I mean? So something like that.
Now, mate, what about the Sharkies? Not the way you wanted to finish after finishing in the top four. What's your evaluation of the season now that it's all over?
Yeah, I'm super proud of how far we got in that regular season. Finishing second is enormous for someone like Fitzy, who's their first year as coach, me first year at the club as a halfback, and we had a bit of a change of systems and how we defend, how we run our attack, and we had Dale and Cam McGinnis come in and be great leaders. So I think it was a pass mark for the regular season. I'm still hurting so much, more the Cowboys game than anything, because we had it in the bag. We were leading by 8 with 7 minutes to go, and then we errors, sin bin, a couple of penalties, and they score 10 seconds to go, which absolutely broke my heart. So I'm going to be holding on to that for the rest of this off season until we play again. So it's another fire in my belly. I honestly can't wait to get back and whip in already, and I just want to get back on the training paddock and learn all our lessons that we did in that pre-season. The semi-finals. And turn all our wrongs into rights, and just have a massive 23. But I need to have a bit of time to reflect as well.
Now, Nicho, we spoke earlier about visualization. So you've obviously been training all year, visualising. I want you to visualise for me, how many schooners are you going to have in this season?
Fair few.
And I'll tell you, after winning the Dally M medal, mate, you will not have to pay for a single one. I hope. You better not have to, particularly in the Shire. Hey?
You're just used to never paying for anything.
Yes. Come on, mate. Come on, mate.
Mate, Nicho, thank you so much for taking time to speak to us. And, as Smithy said, we are absolutely stoked for you, mate. Well-deserved award, mate.
Well done, mate. Hey, quickly before we go,
guys.
can we get a little tip from you for this weekend for the grand final? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking Penrith. I just think we had 5 weeks off for Nathan Cleary, who's done him the world of good, and he's coming back and he's just absolutely brained it. And I just think they got too much of a class team to not win this weekend.
Well, there it is.
Good on you, mate.
Prediction.
Well done.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Always good chat to you.
Go over sleep, bud. You sound tired.
I'm going to sleep for hours.
See you, mate.
See you, mate.
See you guys.
There he is, the great Nicho Hynes, now
good.
Dally M winner. How absolutely
good.
Incredible.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I guess
he's just at home and he's like, I just want to have a sleep. He's the Dally M medal winner. Yeah. I thought he'd just be out partying.
Oh, mate, he's too clean cut for that.
Yeah,
he's too clean cut.
He's too good.
But just quickly, Smithy, you obviously were there when he was coming through.
Yeah.
Did you see this in him, or is this surprising to you?
Well, to be fair, like I'm not surprised, nor am I shocked that he's played so well. Probably the thing that snuck up on me a little bit is how quickly he's made that transition as a key player in a footy side. Always seen the talent and his love of the game, his knowledge of the game, his want to learn more and to be better each training session, each week. And he always had that sort of calmness about him around training and during games. So you knew he was always confident in himself and what he needed to do, the role he needed to play for his team that he's playing for. But the transition from, as I said, being that sort of second or third string player, a guy that would come in with not a whole lot of pressure on him to go out and perform, because he was a guy that sort of filled the void for players that were either injured or away on rep duties. To then take the number 7 jersey with a new coach, with a new club, and to take them where he took them this year to finish in the top 4 was just unbelievable. And it was just great to see him go out there and play. You know what he played with? He played with enjoyment. He just played. He went out there and loved his footy, and that's there's no secret. That's why he played so well this year.
Totally agree. Now, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we got plenty to talk about. We got grand final previews. We got the biggest news of the week, so make sure to stay tuned. We've got some text here, Smithy.
Yes.
In this year's grand final, what's more meaningful to a club? Breaking a 36-year premiership drought for Parramatta, or Penrith possibly becoming the first club ever to win all 4 grades? That is SG Ball, Jersey Flegg, New South Wales Cup, which has already been won by the Penny Panthers, and the NRL. What do you reckon, Smithy?
Oh, geez, that's a hard one. Well, some of that's not involved in either club. It's just hard to split them, really, isn't it? Because Parramatta, 36 years, it's the longest wait of any club in the NRL.
Yep.
Now, I know there's clubs that haven't yet to win a premiership, but they haven't been in the competition for as long as Parramatta, and they haven't been in for 36 years. Like their last premiership, 1986, Kempy. Were you born?
Oh. And I was born the year after.
There you go. Well, I was 3.
Wow. Far out.
And we've been around for a while, so they've been waiting a long time. But at the same time, winning all 4 grades, that's an unbelievable feat, isn't it? And unbelievable because it's never been done before.
Yeah.
As the text has just said, it would be the first time ever in our competition in 114 years or something.
And just to make it stand out even more, so you know the game where the Cowboys played the reserve grade Penrith side,
Yes.
essentially?
Yep, the last round.
So the last round. So that same week, New South Wales Cup was in a finals game. So
yeah,
the
that's
Penrith
right.
Panthers.
They gave up, what, 10, 11, 12 players?
Yep. And so New South Wales Cup reserve grade brought up all the young guys and beat the North Sydney Bears in a finals game to progress.
And North Sydney is it the Roosters?
Roosters. So
wow.
I got a full strength Roosters side, essentially. You'd have a full strength Roosters side.
Yeah.
Pretty much
Yeah.
for the reserve grade.
Wow. How was that, Tommy? Was that a good feeling? Tommy, our producer, he's a big Roosters man. He's giving us the cross. He's like, no, I wasn't happy.
Look, I'm going to go with the 36-year premiership drought.
Yeah.
Only because, I think we're already aware of how good the systems are at Penrith.
Yeah.
And for example, if they go on and lose this grand final, I don't think anyone's going to be sitting here going, "Oh, Penrith aren't still the top dog."
No, that's right, mate. It doesn't. You're exactly right. It doesn't change their standing in the game, does it? Like they'll still be. Well, this sounds strange,
stupid because of the.
But they'd still be the benchmark.
Yes, as a club, as a whole club.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
or even a system. So. I'll go the 36-year drought. In saying that, to be clear, though, absolutely incredible what the Penrith Panthers have put together. It's amazing. Seriously, if you're a struggling club, do as much research as you can on that because they've done something incredibly well. Smithy, thoughts on the whole Dally M, everything like that? You reckon they got it right?
Yeah, I reckon they got it right, mate. For those questioning whether he should have won and maybe saying that, it's flawed because they don't think he was the best player. He was. He was voted that. And look around his commentary, like throughout the year with his performances. Just people are talking about how he's a standout. They finished top 4. You know, they didn't have a great final series, but he was out and out the best player and deserved the Dally M Award. I like it.
Now we want to review the Cowboys and Rabbitohs seasons. North Queensland Cowboys season review. They finished the regular season in third with 17 wins and 7 losses. Many experts had the club tipped for a bottom 4 finish. What impressed you the most in their turnaround, Smithy?
I was really impressed with their defence, Kempy. Yeah, I think that's probably the main reason why they finished third. And they were entrenched in the top 4 for the most part of the year, weren't they? Bit of a slow start to the season, but once they got going, they played extremely well off the back of Drinkwater, I think, taking the number 1 jersey in round 5. But it was their defence that impressed me the most. If you think back to the Cowboys, particularly last year and maybe a couple of seasons previous, their defence just wasn't up to scratch. They leaked a lot of points, but this year I think they finished second overall as far as points conceded. So you know, that for me, that was the thing that impressed me most, and that was through, and just hearing from players throughout the year, talking about the changes that were made to their footy side and mainly their attitude and their mentality towards their football. It was all due to their pre-season and the work that they will put through from their coach Todd Payton and the changes that were made to their footy. And maybe he challenged them about the way they thought about their football. It wasn't about going out and just trying to play this entertaining style of football and trying to win games off the back of scoring 30 points. It was more about focusing on defence, making themselves a team that was really hard to score against, and then backing themselves to score. Instead of scoring 30 points, they would score 18 points and still win the footy game. And I think that's the main reason why they went so far, or went as far as they did, to play in a prelim final only last week.
Yeah, mate, I totally agree. And it's so bizarre because, I guess as a fan, it might almost be frustrating to a degree because every single year, at the end of the year, we always go, their defence was really changed and that's what changed their whole, I guess, trajectory. And so as a fan, you're going, well, why don't 16, now 17 other clubs just do the same thing, work on the defence?
Yeah.
And so I agree, mate. The defence of the Cowboys, they changed. I really feel like the defence of the Cowboys suited the area of the Cowboys, if you know what I mean. Like they're from Townsville. It's a kind of a tough.
Yeah.
I guess every time you used to go up to Townsville, especially when Thurston was playing, it was a super tough experience.
Yep.
And I really feel like Peyton reinstilled that North Queensland toughness back into the side.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that was part of his preseason plan, was that they got put through a lot of training that increased their mental toughness or their ability to get through tough times. And I think that's what you sort of alluded to there, Kempy, is about the style of footy they played this year is a reflection of the region that they represented in North Queensland. Like the people of North Queensland, they have to go through many challenges, with floods and drought and cyclones and all this sort of stuff, but they bounce back, don't they? They're a resilient bunch of people. And that's the way the Cowboys played this year. They played like the region that they represent. And I think that's what made most of the Cowboys fans most proud of their season this year, is because they had a lot of resilience. They played through an origin period where they had a fair few players away representing, both New South Wales and Queensland, and then through the rep weekend with the Pacific Nations playing. But it was fantastic to see them reach a prelim final, the very first time they ever played a prelim at home in front of a sold-out crowd up in Townsville only a week ago. It was such a buzz around town. Like I was up there, for the week leading up to that game, and just everywhere you looked, there was Cowboys jerseys, and kids were running around, at parks and walking the streets with all their Cowboys gear on. All the hats and the flags were out, sitting outside all the houses and all that sort of stuff. So it was great for the town. They would have been disappointed though with finishing the way they did. And a little bit has been said about, the first try for Parramatta and the forward pass from Mitch Moses. But at the end of the day, the Cowboys were leading that game with not long left on the clock. And they had opportunities. Mm-hmm. I think what they'd be most disappointed at, I think as a playing group and the coaching staff, I think in review, they'd look at that forward pass and go, well, it didn't go our way. But what about a couple of those soft tries that we let in? And I know we're talking, it's funny because we're talking about their strongest part of their game this year was their defence. But in the last game that they played of the year, they conceded a couple of really soft tries. Especially, Regan Campbell-Gillard's second one where he ran in between Jordan McLean and Jason Taumalolo. So they had opportunities. They had opportunities to be in the grand final this week, but it wasn't to be. But if looking back overall on their season, I think they need to be really proud of what they did and their efforts. And again, they're another side a lot like Cronulla, where I think this year's experiences will go a long way to them being successful again next year. Like you think about Tom Dearden, just a young man playing in the halves. He got to play an Origin game this year, so he's going to be better for it again next year. They got a lot of young forwards who are just starting out their career. They would have learned a lot of lessons from the games that they played this year. Jeremiah Nanai, only 19 years of age, Kempy.
Wow.
19.
Wow.
And out of that side that took the field in the prelim against Parramatta, they're only losing one player, and that's Tommy Gilbert to the Dolphins. And he is a fantastic player. He played State of Origin this year. But, I think they'll be better for it, like the Sharks, and they'll be competing for a top 4 spot again next year.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. As you said early in the show, it's tough to get to the top. It's even tougher to stay there. So that's the challenge that Peyton faces, is how do we keep these standards and this energy going when we had such a big year? I assume a lot of the preseason energy was drawn from the fact that they had such a poor last year. So I wonder, where does that energy come from coming into this season? I'm sure he'll find it, but it'll probably have to be from a different place. Maybe it's from that heartbreak of being 4 points away from a grand final.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And, he picked up the coach of the year, as we've spoken about earlier, and deservedly so. He's a smart coach. And it's the reason why he was given the opportunity from the Cowboys organisation to go up there and coach, the first grade side. So already, I know it's important to have time away and time off and sort of freshen up, but there's no doubt in my mind that, sort of Todd, over the last week has had, thoughts about already planning for next year and ways that they need to be better and ways that they can, try and get themselves back into a grand final again.
Yep, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Now let's get on to the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Finished the regular season in 7th with 14 wins, 10 losses. Made their 5th straight preliminary this season, but have only made the grand final once. The losses for this year, for 23, is Mark Nichols and Cody Nikorima, and they have no gains. How do you think their season went, Smithy?
Oh, well, they were very slow, slowish out of the blocks, weren't they? And a lot of the focus and talk on the Bunnies in the first part of the year was about, the losses of Wayne Bennett, Adam Reynolds, because the Broncos were going quite well. They were like, oh, mate, huge mistake. Look what's happened. Like, you let Adam Reynolds go. Dane Gagai, of course, as well, was a loss for them. And they struggled to get their mojo early. Off the back of, Latrell Mitchell being injured, played very few games early in the season. And we spoke to him on the captain's run a couple of times, didn't we, early this year? And you could hear the frustration in his voice of not being out there and not being able to help the team, to pick up wins early in the game, but early in the season. But I'll tell you what, like once he got back and they found their rhythm, they were as good as any team that played this year when they were at their best. Yeah, when they were at their best. The thing that I was really impressed with Lachlan Ilias this year, to be honest. Great. Just a rookie number 7 thrown in there after Adam Reynolds, a club legend, had left. There was a little sort of hiccup when they took on the Dragons down in Wollongong about 2/3 way through the season, where their first half was just awful. I think the Dragons scored like 32 points in the first 40 minutes, and the hook come out for Ilias at about 20 minutes. But he wasn't the Lone Ranger that night. There was some performances from Rabbitohs players that night that weren't great. And again, the question marks were raised, like, how will this young bloke bounce back? And I think there was a few doubters out there just saying, well, this could wreck him, this could ruin him. We may not see him bounce back. But I'll tell you what, really impressed with the way he come back and played, particularly in the back end of the year leading into finals. I thought he was one of their better players. And I know they had standouts like Latrell when he went on his run of fantastic games. The form that he was in as good as any player in the competition during that period. Cody Walker really stepped up. I think he benefited hugely from Latrell and the way he was playing. But Lachlan Ilias as the number 7 and just a young man starting out his career, I thought he did a wonderful job for the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I absolutely agree in regards to Lachie Ilias. I thought it was very easy for him to drop his head, get upset that he was hooked from the field. Literally, if you didn't watch that game or you didn't know you would have no idea that he got hooked when you watched the game after. And that's a sign of a mentally resilient player where quite a drastic thing can happen. They come out next week and it looks like that nothing happened. It looks like business as usual. And in regards to some other players I thought really stepped up, I thought towards the end of the year, Cam Murray really began to grow into his leadership role. What do you think of Cam Murray this season? Yeah,
really good again. Like he's just a quality player, isn't he, Cam Murray? He's just so good, and he's just a laid back type of a guy. Really impressive young man. I don't know Cam Murray all that well. I've run into him a few times. I've played against him a few times, and said good day to him. Just in passing, but just really impressive. Listening to him talk. As you said, he grew into that role as a leader and as a captain at that footy club. Sometimes it doesn't come natural to people, having to have the C next to their name and have all these different commitments outside of the game of football. But I thought he was fantastic. One of their best this year. One of their more consistent players. And you really noticed when he wasn't there, Kempy. Yeah. I think sometimes that's a more of a reflection of how the value to your footy side. So when you're not there, the difference it makes to your team, if you understand what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
A couple of times there, like he got ruled out early in a match through HIA protocols, and you could just see that football side just wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same without him. So, he's such a valuable and a very important player for the Rabbitohs moving forward.
Well, the 2 series that New South Wales lost, one, he got done his hammy in the first 20 minutes or so of game 1 of the series. Then he was out for the whole series. And then this one, he got knocked out essentially the first set of game 3.
Yeah, well, it was the first tackle, I think.
Yeah. It
was like the first tackle of game 3 in Brisbane. So, yeah, that's, like you said, mate, that shows the impact that he has on the footy teams he plays for.
Yeah, and it cannot be understated, the quick play the balls that he gets. It changes sets every time. You go from a set where you cannot get out of your half into a set when you now have ascendancy. And then when you add in the 6 again rule, it's compounded. It's not like, we've lost a play the ball, let's just hold a little bit longer, because you could get a 6 again and it's good to go straight away.
Yeah, especially when you got a dummy half like Cookie. Yeah, like he's just like he is an out and out runner. Like his ball playing has improved over the years, but he loves those quick play the balls.
Yeah,
and the combination that those two players share, in and around the ruck, particularly when they're coming away from their own try line, the momentum that Cam Murray creates for Damien Cook, and then Damien Cook has the ability to use his speed, get out of dummy half, and just take his big man onto the football. And then even if he wants to get across field, he's then creating momentum for Cody Walker to move on to on that left edge. Yeah, it's just a lot of that work that goes unnoticed. A lot of people, they see the flash tries and the big set plays and all that sort of stuff, but forget about looking back to where it all started. And like you said, it's the ability of Cam Murray to find the ground, get up and play the ball quickly that gives those other players opportunities to do their thing.
I will also say I think Cam Murray's ball playing this season improved so much. At the start of the year, I would have had Victor Radley, the best lock ball player,
Yep.
Isaiah Yeo, Cam Murray. Honestly, by the end of the year, I would have Cam Murray as the best ball playing lock, Isaiah Yeo second, and Radley third.
Yep.
And that's saying something because obviously I think all three are absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
Just quickly before we head to the break, how would you rate Demetrio in his first season after losing Wayne Bennett?
Yeah, well, I think did a fantastic job given the scrutiny on his football side. Like they're a huge club, aren't they, in Sydney, and situated closely with the Roosters. They share a long and very rich history. So there a lot of the spotlight was on them, particularly early. And I think when they faltered a little bit in that first half of the year, I think everyone just went, "Wow, yeah, he can't do it without Wayne."
Yeah.
But he really proved them wrong, didn't he? He showed them that he's a quality coach, and his players, like to their credit, like all the players come out and said they backed him early.
Yeah.
When they weren't getting the results that they wanted, like they backed him and said, "No, look, this is we need to improve as a footy side. It's nothing to do with Jason." He's doing all the things he can at training to get us ready, and he what he did too was he instilled that confidence in his players and said, "Hey boys, like keep working hard. We'll get through this." I think he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, agreed. And it might sound like such an obvious thing to say, but I think you can really judge a rookie coach by how well the players are playing individually. And what I mean by that is, you could argue that multiple players in that Rabbitohs squad had career best seasons.
Yeah.
Keon, I thought he was the best.
Oh, very good.
Really, really good. Cam Murray, I thought towards the end of the year he was playing some career best footy. Latrell Mitchell went on a streak, played some career best footy.
Yep.
And so
Totola, Junior Totola looked good.
Absolutely won the player of the year for them.
Yep.
And so for a squad to lose one of the greatest coaches of all time, and then its players to arguably, some of them anyway, play better, I think that's a sign of a good coach.
Yep, very good, mate. And he's been involved with those players over the past few years, and he's got those relationships there. It's only going to get stronger.
Smithy, we got plenty of text here. How's it going, Beacon Goat? Just wanted to ask, what are both your top three moments in the NRL that you'll never forget, on or off the field? We'll just get your top three moments, Smithy.
Oh, wow. Top three moments.
There's 1,000 of them.
Yeah. I think, well, just off the top of my head, the 2015 grand final, just the finish. Cowboys winning that one through a field goal through Thurston. I think that was one of the more dramatic finishes we've ever seen. Sorry, mate. I'm trying to stay away from that 2008 game that we played in.
Oh, well, it's here now. It's here.
Geez, going back, maybe. Oh, you know what? I still remember from a young fella, and I was a big Broncos fan. It's actually not a Broncos game, but just going back to my childhood, the the 97 grand final finish, Newcastle beating Manly. At the death when Joey Johns went to dummy half, went the short side, nothing was on, and come back, and Darren Albert, who played the ball, ended up receiving the ball back from Joey and scoring. I still remember that. Like two Sydney teams, I didn't support either side, but it was just great to see Newcastle win that one. And a third one, I don't know, maybe... Geez, I don't know. Oh, probably the miracle try. Not sure if a lot of our listeners remember that one, but Mark Coyne scoring in the corner for Queensland.
That's not a try.
That's a miracle. One of the great calls by Ray Warren, the great Rabs. I think those three sort of come to my mind sort of straight away when you're thinking big moments in rugby league. There's plenty more. And if I had time to sit down and think about it, you'd probably come up with three different ones, but just those three jump out at me straight away.
Now, another text here. Hey, boys, do you think the Raiders need to target a ball-playing lock for next season since Adam Elliott has left?
Oh, you know what? It's horses for courses. I think a lot of people in the game are sort of caught up with this whole ball-playing lock situation and saying that their team needs a link player like a Yo or a Murray or a Victor Radley. Sometimes that just doesn't suit your style of football. Sometimes some teams might benefit more from having a guy that's a bigger body that can carry the ball forward and gain meters and build momentum, rather than a guy that sort of spends half his game passing, half his game running. So I'm not particularly sure whether that's what they need to go and chase. I think if they keep a healthy squad, which they battled injuries this year, as did several other clubs in the competition, if they can keep a healthy squad, I think they'll still be in the hunt for it. Ricky Stewart come out, didn't he, after their last game and said if we had a healthy squad, we would have been top 4.
Yeah,
I don't know whether that would have happened. That's a big call, but I think they would have been much better positioned in the finals than what they were scraping into 8th.
Yeah, in regards to the ball-playing lock as well, all you do is look at the Melbourne Storm over the last couple of years. I think, and obviously, Smithy, you'd know way more about it, but I think Melbourne Storm they pull you apart via quick play the balls and just play front foot rather than having a ball-playing lock. Yeah,
well, have a look at the guys that played in that 13 role for Melbourne over the last couple of years. Like, it's been shared between Brandon Smith, Nelson Asofa Solomona has played there as well.
King.
Yeah, King, Tui Kamikamitha, they've all played there. They're not overly great ball players. What their strength is getting the ball and running hard, running forward and creating momentum. So, like I said, it's horses for courses. It's all about the makeup of your team and your squad and what benefits, what players around them would benefit from, whether it be ball playing or someone running forward, trying to skittle a few defenders and playing the ball quickly.
There's been, I think, a substantial development in the Ben Hunt and Dragons contract negotiation. Reports broke yesterday saying that Ben Hunt and his management have rejected the Dragons' latest 2-year offer. The Daily Telegraph have reported the Dragons upped their 2-year offer, but it wasn't enough for Hunt. Both parties are still hoping to get a deal signed before November 1 deadline when Hunt becomes off contract. Reports circulated last week suggesting that the Tigers are holding out and hope to try and sign Cam Munster and Mitchell Moses, which I guess would have an effect-ish on the 7 market. Thoughts on the Benny Hunt reportedly rejecting the latest offer? Now, initially, the initial reports were the Dragons were around 700K.
Yep.
And the Hunt was around 850K. What do you reckon, Smithy?
Well, we've spoken about this topic before, haven't we? A little bit earlier in the year. And look, I still feel the 850 is value for him. Given the way, particularly the way he played this year and the way he carried that footy side. Like some of the matches that they lost, they might have lost by, 16 or 20 points. Like if he wasn't playing, they would have been beaten by 40. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a lot of the games they won, they probably wouldn't have won if he wasn't there. So he's clearly making a huge difference to that footy side. If the club have come out and said, look, we want to give you 700, and he said, listen, I want 800, I would have thought the deal just would have been, that's pretty straightforward for me.
Surely.
I thought the club would have gone, oh, look, okay, we'll move 100, 150 to keep you. But, you just don't know, do you? You don't know what's going on behind closed doors or within the walls of the Dragons and what they're thinking. But if it's as straightforward as that, I would have thought that a deal would have been done by now. Because the last thing that they would want to do is allow this to continue to November 1, where he becomes a free agent, a free agent in this competition. Because how many times do you hear people talking about clubs screaming out for a quality half?
Yeah.
They're just there's a handful of clubs in desperate need of a quality half, an experienced half, and he ticks the box right there, Ben Hunt.
Yeah, he is honestly, not only is he an experienced half that can just lead a team around, he breaks games open. He changes the outcome of games.
Yep.
So I agree with you, mate. It seems a bit strange in regards to if he's at 850 and they're at 700, why are you pinching pennies with your main man? And
I think he showed this year through Origin that he is still one of the better players in the competition. Like he would have finished in the top, sort of 4 or 5 players, I guess, when the voting went in for like the Wally Lewis medal. Like he would have had to have been in contention for that. Patrick Carrigan took it out, but surely he would have been close, Ben Hunt. I've got no doubt about that.
I think sometimes also some clubs that I guess are struggling a little bit, they have to face an added question, and that question is, what are we without this guy? You know, we don't go from first to third. We might go from 11th to 16th. And so it's a little bit similar to the Tarpanet, re-signing in the sense that, like, let's say you thought 850K is a lot for a front rower. You have to ask yourself, what are the Raiders without him? You know, they are, without Tarpanet, I don't even think they make the 8.
Well, that's why they come to the party, didn't they, with a 5-year $1 million contract.
Yeah, so it's surprising that the Dragons are even playing this game, because there's been no reports that Benny Hunt wants $1 million. And if they were to even get close to putting him on like, if November 1 hits, I honestly think there might be minimum 10 clubs, that would move heaven and earth to get him at the club for $1 million as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the last thing that the Dragons need right now is Ben Hunt to go on the open market. And we're not far away. It's 1 month.
Mate.
So it's 1 month.
If I'm being honest, though, I think they'll get the deal done. I think they will. I'd be very surprised if they allow this to get to November 1st. What do you reckon? Do you think they get the deal done, Smithy?
Oh, yeah, look, I'd like to think so. How much money does the Dolphins have? Could he just up and leave?
Could you imagine?
Wow.
Man. Because you have to think, okay, let's say the Dolphins are offering Cam Munster 1.3. You'd have to think they have at least 900K for another big dog player as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Back in Queensland,
mate.
That's where he's from.
Hunt Munster combination. I tell you what, if they were to land Hunt and Munster, I honestly believe they could fight for the 8 in the first year.
Yep. Big game players, mate. Big game players.
So hopefully, text us in 0457 736 736. Text in or give us a call and let us know. What do you think about the Ben Hunt situation? Do you think the Dragons are, I guess, playing a dangerous game of chicken? Or do you think that the Dragons are well within their rights to try to get him for a bit cheaper? Because you could argue earlier on his contract, you know, maybe he wasn't playing up to $1 million standard and they're trying to just get their value back now. So text in 0457 736 736. Now, on to the next halves. Conundrum. The Tigers are reportedly holding out hope to try and sign Cam Munster, not only Cam Munster, and Mitchell Moses.
Wow.
I don't want to be disrespectful. But do you honestly think there's any chance of that happening, Smithy?
No. With all due respect, no. I don't think so.
Come on.
They look, at a pinch, they might jag one, just through a ridiculous offer that the players can't refuse. But I highly doubt either will be there. I highly doubt that both will end up at the Tigers. I really don't think so. On the Cam Munster thing, I think it's one of two teams. It's either he remains at Storm or he moves to the Dolphins. Mitch Moses, I'm not so sure about. I think he'd prefer to stay at Parramatta Eels. I think that's his preference. But yeah, you just don't know whether he makes the decision to move on. Maybe the result this week, Kempy, plays a huge bearing in that. If they're to win the premiership, does he then move on or does he stay? Who knows? Yeah,
well, I mean, because the thing is if he wins a premiership, you know, he probably could demand $1 million a year on the open market.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, I probably would put Moses around the 800K mark. I think is a really good value for both parties.
Yep.
Now we've actually got a caller on the line. We've got Jacob from Erskine Park. Jacob, you there, mate?
Hey, boys. How are you?
Going good, Jacob?
Good to speak to you, lads. In regards to the Ben Hunt situation, you've already spoken about it. If the Dragons really can't get to that mark that his management and he wants to get to that mark, they reckon around the 900 mark that he wants, close to $1 million. All reports have said how tight the Dragons' salary cap is. Like we signed one player for next year. You know, like we haven't really gone to market at all because the salary cap is so tight. We've had the most players in the 100 list. Is it fair to say that there might be an option to look at life after Ben Hunt? Because we have the spine players like Jaden Sullivan, Amon, etc. that need more development. If the Dragons can't get to that mark that Ben Hunt wants, is it a bad thing for him to move on?
Mate, like I totally see where you're coming from. If they can't get to that mark, I agree with you. They need to go all in on Sullivan and Amon and it's not just financially all in. They need to put so many resources in. So, for example, if I was the Dragons, and obviously, Smithy, you know better about this, let's say you can't get Benny Hunt. The next best thing I would be doing is paying one of the best former sevens in the NRL to be a mentor and coach for both Amon and Sullivan, and be building around them. What do you reckon if they can't get Benny Hunt? What direction would you go, Smithy?
Well, you just got to back your young players then, don't you?
Mm.
And, you know, we spoke about Amon and his position in the squad throughout this year. He was sort of in, he was out. He's a great young talent. There's no doubt about that. So you just have to invest your money and your time, as you mentioned, Kempy, in trying to bring him up to speed. And sometimes it's all about opportunity. Like, look at Ilias. Like we just spoke about Lachlan Ilias this year, and it's just a young man. A lot of people were sort of had question marks over him and whether he was the right man to replace Adam Reynolds. And look at the season he had. Fantastic. It took him a little bit of time to get going, but you know, with as each week went by, he seemed to get better and better and more confident within himself. So sometimes it's just one of these guys, whether it be Amon or Sullivan, just getting an opportunity and having someone say, mate, our confidence is in you. Like, we're backing you to go out and play well and lead this team around.
Yeah, and just quickly as well, Jacob, you know, we were speaking positively about, you know, backing, you know, a Sullivan and Amon in. Then you've got the negative stories of places like the Knights that allowed Pearce to go, and things fell apart. And I'd argue Ben Hunt is in much better form than Pearcey was, even though I think Pearcey should have, they would have been much better with him staying. So you don't want to go down the Knights route where they're almost scrambling for halves now because they don't, you know who's going to be going forward in their 6 and 7.
Yeah, well, and another angle you can talk about really is Anthony Griffin the right coach to actually nurture and develop Sullivan and Amon? Because it seems like with the Tyrell Sloan situation, how bad it's been handled with the Sloan situation, is he really the man that can do it if Ben Hunt was to leave?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, there's divided, I guess, opinion on that because, you know, we know Benny Hunt really likes to work under Hook, and Hook's clearly got the best out of Benny Hunt. But, you know, then there's rumblings coming out that, you know, the playing group isn't all on board. So you're right, it's a really tough time for the Dragons. I do think Hook deserves another season, obviously this season, to prove himself. But it's a question that the Dragons, I think, will probably have to ask mid-year, which they probably will. But thanks so much for the call, Jacob. Really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, no worries, boys. Thanks for the show. I've been listening all year, so can't wait for next season for it to come back.
Legend, mate. Appreciate it. Hopefully it's bigger and better next season. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. We've got a text here, Smithy. This is a great one for you. Hey, legends, wanting to ask, how do you both compare Nathan Cleary to past greats such as Cooper Cronk, Joey, Thurston, etc.? What do you think, Smithy?
Yeah, well, it's hard. Well,
at this age,
I'm going to be. Yeah, okay. At the same age.
Yeah, I think that's the best way because there's no way you can compare him to those guys.
Yeah, well, let's go straight off the top. You can't compare Nathan Cleary to those guys because he hasn't been in the game long enough. And as much as he has achieved as a young man now, as a 24-year-old, he's 24, isn't he?
Yeah,
24. He's a premiership winner. He's been a part of an Origin winning series team. He hasn't achieved what those guys have. You know, Joey and Cooper Cronk and Jonathan Thurston. But certainly at similar ages, you know, he's done, you know, quite similar things. You know, those guys were all playing representative football at relatively young ages. I think Jonathan Thurston, he won a premiership in 2004 as a 21-year-old. You know, so that was pretty early in his career with the Bulldogs. But certainly he's on the path, isn't he, to emulate what those three great halfbacks, you know, did in their career. And you know, Thurston played a lot of 7, but he played 6 as well, which I think, you know, it's sort of increases his standing in the game, where he's able to. I know it's halves, but it was a bit of a different role that he played when he was wearing the 6 jersey. He wasn't particularly the guy that was steering the team around the park. He just picked and chose his situations nicely. But when the big play needed to happen, he was the man that said, "Hey, give me the football. I'll create something here." But if he goes on to win another premiership this year, Nathan, he's certainly going to put himself, when he finishes his career, he'll certainly put himself in the same conversation as those three names.
I think, and this is a lot of if, buts, and maybes, because you just don't know how someone's career is going to pan out. I think, let's just say Cleary wins this premiership.
Yep.
That's obviously back-to-back, that's 2. I think the next few years, he's only couple of obstacles to begin to be compared to some of the greats like Thurston, like Joey, is I think he needs to dominate an Origin series, as in he needs to be the guy. You've got Joey 2005, you've got Freddie 2004, you've got yourself 2017 was one of your best ones, and plenty more as well. You've got Thurston, which was, was it when he had his busted shoulder? I thought that was incredible. Just these like folklore moments in Origin, and that's really... This is how good this kid is that's all that you would ask for him after winning this back-to-back, and obviously a consistent rest of his career.
Yeah.
And so, that's where I just think if he wins the grand final and then he goes on to really dominate international Origin footy, then I think you can start beginning to make those comparisons. But it's a long, long time, and anything can happen in a career. I will say, though, at 24 years old, he's right up there with some of the best we've ever seen, some of the best I've personally ever seen at 24 years old. Smithy, bit of sad news. This is the last hour for the year for us, mate.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Mate, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss all of our listeners.
Yep. Going to miss the crew. But let's get into it. Grand final.
Here we go.
Much more exciting thing happening. The Penny Panthers versus the Para Eels. 7:30 this Sunday at Accor Stadium. Now, let's start with the Penny Panthers. Taylor May has failed to overcome a hamstring injury, so Charlie Staines retains his spot in the wing. 13 of the 17 players named took part in last year's grand final win over South. The new faces are Staines, Tungo, Kenny, and Salmon. What do you think about the makeup of the Panthers squads?
Well, they got a huge advantage, isn't it? You just mentioned that 13 of the 17 players named to play this year played in last year's decider, so they've got the experience. And I dare say a lot of those guys too would have played in the 2020 grand final also. So there's a huge chunk of players for Penrith playing in 3 consecutive grand finals. And across those previous 2 matches, they would have learned a lot about not just the game, Kempy, but the week and understanding, the preparation and what goes on. There's a lot of extra, commitments. We've seen both teams at the Dally M's last night. A lot more media attention on both football sides. So, and a few extracurricular things as well, like getting, media things done and headshots and photos with opposition players and all this sort of stuff. So that's not new to them. That's not new to them. They know exactly what grand final week is about. I feel as though that could be a slight advantage, but at the same time, it'll be a very exciting time for the Parramatta players as well, who haven't experienced this. They've watched on, throughout their entire career, other teams being involved in this week leading up to the grand final. But, to have 13 players out of the 17 taking the field this weekend who, were part of the premiership last year, I think that gives them a slight head start. A slight head start when it comes to this game.
And this game actually is brought to you by Suncorp Insurance. Get award-winning car insurance with Suncorp. We've won best insurance for the last 7 years in a row. So that's Suncorp Suncorp Insurance, car insurance. This is obviously our match of the round. Now let's get into the Para Eels. Actually, just quickly, you missed, was it 1 grand final?
Yes, it was 2008.
And I guess, so that's early, relatively early on in your career, you're about 3 or 4 years into your career.
Yep.
Do you think a guy like Taylor May, be devastating that he's missing it? Is this, it's going to sound silly, but is this a good thing for his career in the sense of he's going to use this pain to push on? Or do you think it, I guess, rattles you a bit? What was it like for yourself?
Yeah, well, for me, it was motivation, really. But I was lucky enough to have played in a couple of grand finals previously to the 2008 decider. So I knew what grand finals were about. I knew what it was like to win a grand final. For Taylor May, I'd like to think as a young man this will really spur him on. But at the end of the day, it's down to him whether he can sit there and feel a little bit sorry for himself and feel as though he's missed out on a great opportunity, which he has. But injuries, unfortunately, are a part of our game, and there's been a lot of players, a lot of great players, a part of our sport over its rich history over 100 years. Some of the best players that our sport has ever seen never play in a grand final or never win a premiership, Kempy. So as a young man, I think he just needs to look at it as I'm part of a very good organisation, a team that's in great form, that can and has the opportunity to continue to be the benchmark of the competition in years to come, and just make the most of what he's a part of right now. Because who knows? Like you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But at the moment, he's a part of something really special. And I'm sure when you look at that side, they look like they're a very close knit team. I'm sure he's been positive around the group, as much as he would be disappointed that he's not taking part in this match due to injury. He just needs to be, when he's around the group, just be positive for the players playing this week, particularly, Staines, who's coming in to fill that void.
Now onto the Para Eels. This is an absolutely huge call in my opinion. Nathan Brown has been recalled on the bench for his first game since round 17.
July.
To top it all off, he's only had 2 games in reserve grade since. So this isn't a battle-hardened, been playing match after match. No, don't get me wrong, Nathan Brown, tough as they come.
Yep.
But when it comes to match fitness, it's not like he's got that up his sleeve. He's going to replace Bryce Cartwright. Now, I've got my own thoughts on why I think that he did this, but Smithy, why do you think Brad Arthur made such a huge call on the last game of the season?
Oh, I just think he's picked Brown to come in just to fight fire with fire. I really do. We all know the style of footy that Nathan Brown plays. He's a firebrand. He's quite aggressive. He carries the ball strongly. There's a bit of no frills about the way he goes about his game. If someone runs at him, he's going to try and hit him as hard as he can. But he's taken that spot where the player sort of that fourth man on the bench for Parramatta Eels, Brad Arthur, it's sort of they only come on and play roughly 12 minutes each game. I think Bryce Cartwright, he got limited time last week. And Bryce Cartwright took the position of, was it Makatoa, from the previous week, and he was sort of averaging around, sort of 12 minutes a game as well. So I think what will happen is that if Brad Arthur sees an opportunity for Nathan Brown to get on the field I think the message to him will be, hey, mate, I need you to go on and go as hard as you can for 10 minutes. Just go absolutely crazy. Get as many touches of the football you can, make as many tackles as you can and try to inflict some pain on the opposition, cause a bit of havoc out there for us and get off. I think that's what his role will be. And I'll tell you, I think he'll be told to go out and ruffle some feathers of particular players from the Panthers.
That was going to be my next question. Do they, because it is such an obvious pick of aggression, of ruffling feathers, of getting amongst it, do they run the risk of having, not the same, but the Roosters-Rabbitohs game was a really good indication of we love aggression, but sometimes it can go too far and take away from your rugby league. Is there a small chance that Brown, I guess, unfortunately goes too far and he costs them 10 minutes or whatever?
Well, yeah, there's always the potential to do that, but I think they'll be happy to put up with it. I really do.
Okay.
I think they would be, because you think back to over the last couple of years, who has made Penrith the most uncomfortable out of any team in the competition? It's Parramatta.
Eels. Yeah,
it's the Eels, and they've done it this year. They've won both games that they've played against them so far. I know one of them was when they played against sort of 12 men for the most part of the game when Cleary was sent off at CommBank Stadium. But they went out to Penrith and beat them on their home ground, which up to that point, I think that Penrith had won something like 25 consecutive matches. So they do have the ability to upset Penrith's rhythm and their systems and sort of just get under their skin a little bit. And so that's why I'm thinking, as soon as I seen the news that Nathan Brown was named, I'm thinking that he's been given one job, and that's just to go and upset a few people, ruffle a few feathers of the opposition, particularly some of their key players in Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, these type of guys that really play such a significant role, Jerome Luai as well, such a significant role in their attack.
Now, I mean, I think maybe I'm getting a bit too deep into the conspiracy, Smithy.
Yeah.
But do you think that if you're Ivan Cleary, you almost go, okay, Nathan Brown's on the bench. If Nathan Brown gets on around the time I would put Spencer Leno on, I put Spencer Leno on, to fight fire with fire and go, all right, mate, you want to put on your dog? We'll put on our dog, and let's see who wins that battle.
See who's got the bigger dog.
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised, Kempy. I really wouldn't be surprised because they're both they play a similar style of football, don't they?
Yeah.
And it just considering he's had limited time on the field, he's played 2 games in that time between round 17 and now. It stands out to say we're going to send someone out there to really go after a couple of your players.
Now, just a quick little insight here from a producer. The last time Nathan Brown played a game, it was round 20 of the New South Wales Cup. Mm-hmm. It was against the Panthers.
Oh.
And Brown was sin-binned after 46 minutes.
There you go. There you go.
Can you bet on sin bins?
You can bet on anything. Top Sport.
Surely.
Make sure you do it Top Sport.
Yeah, Top Sport. Reach out, Tristo. What are the markets on Brown getting sin bin? I want to put the house on it. That I don't have.
Yeah.
I want to put one of Smithy's house on it. Oh, yeah, there we go. There it is.
Oh, I've only got the one. Come on, mate. In Queensland. It's another one of these like storylines though, isn't it? Like for a grand final, just the surprise packet being picked up, being thrown in there, and maybe it's just to try and get inside a few of the players' heads already in the lead up to this game. So they're sitting there just going, Nathan Brown, he hasn't played first grade since July. What's he going to do? Like, what is he going to do when he gets on the field? Now, I get it. I get it. Like, there's rules in our game, and if he crosses the line, there'll be consequences, of course. But at what expense to Penrith?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, only naturally Cleary is going to be, if Brown's on the field, Cleary's thinking about it.
Oh, he's human. As good a player as he is, he's human.
He's going to be thinking about it, and rightly so, because Brown's going to be hunting him, putting kick pressure, all that stuff. Now, Opacek has failed to overcome his hamstring injury. Bailey Simonson retains his spot in the side. Interestingly, I thought Bailey Simonson had been in and out of the side all year, but I actually went back and looked over the season. He's actually played 19 games this season. Yeah. On top of that, I actually got a bit of mail that he even requested to go back and play centre in New South Wales Cup.
Wow.
Again, I'm not sure. That was just all reportedly, but so he's come back in at centre. Is it a concern that they've got a guy like, for example, Wonga Blake? I know they're on different sides, but Wonga Blake, defensively can have some lapses and obviously in the air. And then you've got a new centre as well with Bailey Simonson. Do you think that's a concern for the Eels that you've got such inexperience in specific positions?
Yeah, well, I don't think they'll go into a game with concerns, but I think that'll be an area that Penrith look at closely. And they'll focus a lot of their attack around those players. And no doubt, you just mentioned Wonga Blake. No doubt he'll be getting a lot of high kicks come his way again from Nathan Cleary, given the result that Penrith got out of him the last time they played. But in saying that, I don't think his teammates helped him a whole heap in that game. They didn't put a whole heap of kick pressure on Nathan Cleary. And if you look at, last week, the Rabbitohs actually got out to him early in the match. They got out and got at him quite early, and they put him off a few times, and kicks didn't particularly go where he wanted them to go. And just, if you need to look at some positive results from putting a little bit of effort in on last plays or when Cleary's going to kick the ball, just have a look at the Origin.
Yeah.
Have a look at the State of Origin series this year, particularly Game 3, where Queensland they did a fantastic job on Cleary. And, there's a little bit been spoken about that blocking system that they have, and people saying, well, that's it's illegal, you shouldn't be able to do it. I don't know. I don't think particularly it's legal, because you're not allowed to do that. When you think about field goals, the league come in and said, look, you can't have blockers standing next to the ruck when they play the ball. You can't have people just positioned there and not moving. But if they do it and they're allowed to get away with it, if the referee allows them to do it, then that's out of your control. What you need to do, though, is just put a little bit of extra effort in and get past those blockers, and you'll get an opportunity to go and get Nathan Cleary. It's just what it is. It's just a little bit of extra effort, and I'll guarantee you Parramatta will get rewards at some stage if they do that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Smithy, because whether they do it, it's illegal, it's not illegal, you can't change that. All you can change is what is in your control. I think another really, thing that can add and give you space is winning the contact on the fifth play.
Yeah.
Making sure that they're not hitting their front and finding it straight away. Making sure that you win that contact, you get them on their back so that you've got time to get to Cleary. And so it's really interesting that, look, I know Cooper Cronk was an incredible kicker of the ball for sure, but I feel like it's just become more and more evident that I would argue that Cleary's kicking game is truly their biggest weapon.
Oh, it's huge. It's a huge weapon. And so not only does it continue to apply pressure to the opposition with where he places the ball on the last tackle and his ability to kick high and kick with depth and make, whether it be wingers or fullbacks taking the ball, like they're catching the ball sort of a metre and a half from their own try line and then being forced to bring the ball back. So he's extremely accurate with his kicking, but then he's also got a huge variation of kicks that he can put in. He's got a kick where he can kick back across his body when he's trying to find a 40-20. He can put up, as we've seen throughout this final series, his go-to kick has been that floater / spiral, whichever one he pulls off. That's been his go-to in this final series. And he's happy to do them from around halfway, 40 metres out. He's just happy to throw it up and say, do your best. Because he knows he's got chasers going down there. But you can see with the way they set up is that they're all on board with the kick. Very rarely do they have anyone sitting around him as an option if someone comes out to get him to run the football. If you look on the outside of Nathan Cleary, like a lot of his outside men, they're in a straight line and they time their run to perfection. So when the ball meets his foot, they're directly in line with him, going down to put pressure on whoever's standing underneath the ball. So it's a huge part of Parramatta's defence this weekend is their last play defence, and they need to keep their feet moving until one of their players has the ball in their hands. Like they cannot give up on that last play and just think, well, I ran out to put pressure on Cleary. The ball's now been kicked. It's gone over my head. I'll just hope for the best. Hope our fullbacks and wingers get the job done. They need to get back there. They need to get on their bike and get back and help their players, and wait until one of their teammates has got the ball in their hands and they're on the ground about to play the ball. Then they can have a rest.
Text here, Smithy. Boys, this grand final is a massive mismatch. It's a romantic notion to suggest Parra can win, but let's be honest, they're going to be demolished. That's from Matt. Holy, that's confident,
Wow.
Matt.
Yeah.
What are you seeing that I'm not seeing, Matty?
Yeah, is Matty, he must be, is he a Penrith fan? Don't know.
No.
No, I don't think it's that clear cut, really, is it? Like, I understand why people are thinking it'll be a lopsided game this week, but I'll tell you what, Parramatta, if they get out there and play their best footy, They're a chance. They are a chance. Like Penrith, the one thing you know about Penrith is that they're not going to give Parramatta too many chances, right? And what they'll do is they'll just apply pressure all game. They'll just wait for their opportunities. They're a very patient footy side. They'll just wait for their opportunities, and if they're given their opportunities, they'll take them. They'll make the most of them. They'll score points. But Parramatta have shown that they can go out there, and if they go out early, put some early scoreboard pressure on Penrith, they could walk away with the victory. They could. They just need to play their best footy for 80 minutes. That's all.
I think that, I think we forget that, you watch that second half with the Panthers and you go, wow, these guys are unbeatable in regards to when they played Rabbitohs. But if you go back and watch that first 20 to 30 minutes, when they're 12-0 down, I felt like it's the second week they've started really, really slowly.
Yep.
And so I believe if the Eels complete at 85% and have a better first 20 minutes and they actually capitalise on their opportunities, I think they win. I just think their completion rate has to be over 85% though.
Yep.
Anything less than 80, Panthers will just squeeze them out of the game.
Yep.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. Now, Smithy, we've got the World Cup coming up. It's a hotly debated topic. What is your 17, or at least just your starting 13 for the World Cup for Australia?
Okay. I'll go starting 13 because it's really hard to put together a 17 at the moment because there's so many good players. So I'll start at the back, Tedesco. He's the number one. I think Josh Addo-Carr, and I think it'll be split between Cobbo and Corey Oates. I reckon Corey Oates might have just done enough this year to get a call up for the Kangaroos, Kempy.
Okay.
Not too sure what you're thinking there, but that'll be the wingers. I think in the centres it'll be Latrell Mitchell, Val Holmes. In the halves, interesting one, this one. I think, Munster will be 6. Can't wait to see who will take the number 7 jersey, whether they stick with DCE at 7 after his strong performance throughout the Origin series this year, and particularly the first, I thought probably 3/4 of the season he was outstanding, but Cleary has been phenomenal for Penrith again. Either one of those two, I couldn't lock one away, Kempy. I don't know what will happen there. My starting props is Regan Campbell-Gillard with Tino, Fa'asua Malaawi. Ben Hunt starting 9, like he did in Origin. Back rowers, Cam Murray and Angus Crichton. Number 13, Isaiah Yeo.
Mate,
what do you think of that footy side?
Mate, I think that's a great footy side. The only changes, not changes, you already alluded to it, but I'd be putting Corey Oates on the edge over Selwyn.
Yep.
Look, I'd bring Selwyn over in the squad, but it'd be purely for experience. I think that, I think he's still really young, and just for his longevity of his career, I'd be bringing him over there to get him around the excellence that is the Australian squad.
Yep.
But I wouldn't be playing him in many games. I really think that he's a tired player mentally and physically, even though he was quite good against PNG.
Yep.
On the other edge, I'd have I'll put it this way: I would have had Suoli'i initially, but obviously he's gone to Samoa, which is it's great for Samoa. I'd have Addo-Carr on the other edge. At fullback, I'd have Tedesco. In one centre, I'd have Holmes. The other centre, I'd had Latrell.
Yep. Then
I would have Munster at 6. And although I thought DCE, I think if you had have selected the team after Origin, I would have put DCE in the 7 jersey.
Yep.
But after the season is gone, done and dusted, I think they absolutely must pick Cleary at 7. I think it is the time to hand the reins over to him and make this Australian side his side.
Yep.
All due respect to DCE, I think he's a stalwart of the game. He's achieved some incredible things, but I just think it's Cleary's time now. Now, look, if Cleary plays poorly or goes down injured, DCE is a perfect replacement for him. But I think it is time for Cleary to take this Australian side and make it his own. I'd have Benny Hunt at 9. I know, we said we wouldn't talk about a bench, but I'd probably put Harry Grant on the bench with him.
Yep.
And I'd bring Coruscant in the squad. Up front, I would start either Tino or Paddy Carrigan.
Okay.
That would be with RCG.
Yes.
Isaiah Yeo at 13. Crichton on the edge. Murray on the other edge. And off the top of my head, apologies if I get it wrong, I'd probably carry Whiten, Grant, maybe a Carrigan, and a Hudson Young maybe on the bench.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head with the bench. The bench is something Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the one you've probably got to spend a bit more time on, isn't it? The bench, because to get the makeup of the 17 right, whether you carry, you're already taking utility. Well, you're starting with a utility in Ben Hunt at 9. Exactly
Yes.
what the Queensland team did this year, and you throw Harry Grant on after 20, 25 minutes. He plays out the remainder of the match at 9. Whether you then take like a Jack Whiten as an outside back replacement, and then who goes over there as an extra prop and a back rower. So Lindsay Collins, he's a possibility as well. And this is the hardest thing, isn't it, to make up the remaining spots on the bench. You got Ruben Cotter as well.
Oh no!
This is what I mean. Like, you just throw up these names. Jeremiah Nanai.
Oh,
just
God.
I
take it all back. I take it. I'm changing my team.
And this is the thing. This is the thing with this Australian side as well. Like, a lot of people are talking, and there's a bit of a buzz around the Tongan side and the Samoan side in particular, and a lot of players taking the option to go and play for those Polynesian sides, which is great. It's going to be a fantastic World Cup. But I think what's been forgotten is the quality of players still available for this Kangaroos footy side. Like, when you mention those names, you start thinking, wow, like those names that you mentioned around filling those bench spots and could possibly miss out on the first 17 that play their first match in the World Cup. They could quite easily be thrown into the starting 13.
Absolutely.
Do you understand what I mean? Like, so
yeah.
So I guess the positive for the Kangaroos is their depth. When you look at Tonga and Samoa in particular, their first 13, they're great footy sides. But when you go all the way down to player 24, it starts getting a little bit skinny. Whereas you look at Australia, and it's a long tournament. These teams are going over to England for 8 weeks, and you just don't know what's going to happen through that 8-week period, whether it be through form or injury or illness, maybe suspension throughout the tournament. The one thing that the Kangaroos do have going for them is the depth in their squad.
It's such a good point to think that a guy like Lindsay Collins, Paddy Carrigan, Tino, Cotter, Whiten, one of them may not be in the 17.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You're totally right. When the one thing that I think that you're right. There is a lot of hype around Tonga, Samoa, and rightly so. Absolutely so excited. But I still don't think any team has anywhere close to the depth that Australia has when it comes to, when you're looking at the 24-man squad. It's going to be really interesting to see whether that plays a factor in the World Cup, because you're right. I think we've kind of gotten a bit used to one-off tests or...
Yeah, that's right.
This is a World Cup. You need your whole squad, and people are going to get injured and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And they're a long way away from... a long time spent away from home as well. So that's a factor that people don't think about, and they just say, oh, well, you're over there playing footy, just go and play. But, a lot of people, they like being in their own home. They spend a lot of time away from their families. Does that have an effect on them as well? So it's really about the team, the nation, the squad that is able to handle all those different challenges of being away from home, playing in different conditions, the challenges of playing, that high-quality football week on week. That's the team that's going to win it. It's not necessarily about who's got the the most exciting or a great looking side on paper. Who can get through that long tournament in which it's played a physical, fast style of football, because it's all the best players throughout the world playing against each other. Who can handle that the best?
Now, what other, nations really excite you? For me personally, I think this is the best Kiwi side. I think we've had as good Kiwi sides on paper due to their name and their achievements, but I don't think we've ever seen a Kiwi side have so many players playing almost career best form. You've got your Dylan Brown, you've got your Hughes, your Tarpanet, your Fisher Harris, your Leota, you've got Papali'i on one edge, you've got Manu. I honestly think that, I'd probably have Australia just favourites, but I think the Kiwis are right there. What are your thoughts, Smithy?
Yeah, look, I think, the Kangaroos are what, $1.50 favourites or something like that, $1.45 favourites. I think that's probably a little bit short.
Yeah, that's too short. That's way too short.
That's a little bit short, given the quality of the other teams. But this New Zealand side, it's as good as it's been for a long time. Put it that way. With the particularly when you're looking at the extended squad that they've named. Just quickly going through it, like Asafa Solomona, the two Bromwiches, Dylan Brown, Fisher Harris, Foran, Hamlin Ueli, Hadawira Naira, Hiku, Hughes, Johnson. There's just so many great players. Joey Manu, you mentioned, Tomato Martin, Mulatalo, Griffin Neem.
Wow.
It's just, Brandon Smith. It's just, they're full of great players. And if they can stay healthy and handle, like I was talking about, if they can handle that period away from home and, that extension onto what's already been quite a grueling season, they'll be there right at the end. The interesting thing, though, with the setup of this World Cup, Kempy, is let's say the Kangaroos and the Kiwis, they both go through their pool matches undefeated, and then they play their quarterfinals, they win that. They actually meet each other in the semi-final.
Oh, wow.
So if they go undefeated all the way to the semi-final, they will meet in the semi-final, and so only either the Kangaroos or the Kiwis will go through to meet someone else on the other side of the pool in the World Cup final.
Oh, it's interesting. Like, it sounds maybe a little bit crazy, but are you almost considering dropping a game to miss them, to meet them in the grand final?
Throw a match.
Look, crazy things have happened, Smithy. I just got watching a documentary about corrupt bloody NBA refs. So maybe I've still got me tinfoil hat on.
Yeah.
But just quickly, mate.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one would ever drop a game in their nation's colours. Absolutely not. But here's the odds, mate. Australia $1.45, New Zealand $4.50, England $11. If I'm being honest, I would have Samoa and Tonga before England.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a bit of, I guess, bias because I see the Samoa and Tongan players play more regularly than a lot of the English players.
Yep.
Samoa is on $11, but really interestingly, Tonga is $17. So it's what, $6 more than Samoa.
Wow.
Incredible. Another crazy stat, out of the grand final, Samoa have essentially 7 players named in the grand final 2 squads, which is
that the most?
I think it is. Now, I think maybe the Kiwis have equal or close to, but to think Samoa may have the most players playing in the grand final, that's great for the health of Pacific Islander rugby.
Yep, international football. It's great.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for this World Cup. We've got to get through the grand final first, which is the huge one this weekend, and then we get into the big tournament at the end.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run. It's time now for everyone's favourite moment of the show, Holy Schnitz moment. And let's get straight to it. My favourite moment of the weekend was Brian To'o try on the stroke of halftime against the Rabbitohs. He bumped the great Cody Walker off, and they skittled and scuttled like 10-pin bowling pins. 10-pin bowling pins. And when that happened, I went, holy schnitz, because it triggered many a time when I got bumped off at training. And it reminded me of all the times the big fellas threw me around like I was nothing. So that is my holy schnitz moment. Brian To'o, to be honest, I think that was a game-changing play. If they go in 12-6, I really felt it deflated the Rabbitohs. But that's when I yelled holy schnitz at my TV, Smithy. When did you yell it at yours, mate?
Well, mine was last weekend, actually. Turned on the AFL Grand Final. And I watched sort of bits and pieces of it. I didn't watch it closely, not as close as I used to when I was living in Melbourne. But at full time, when the full-time siren went, I said, holy schnitz. Geelong's victory, 81 points. 81 points over the Swannies.
In a GF.
What's doing?
What is doing? Real opportunity for NRL this week to, hit back with a big grand final that's close tightly
game.
Contested affair.
Yeah. Let's hope we don't have a result like that. I don't think we will. We're not going to. We won't.
81. Hopefully they don't score 100 points.
Well, not 81 points. I think in the translation into rugby league, that would be like a 40, 50 point victory, I guess.
Yes, I think so. I will say I also yelled holy schnitz. I put over the AFL. I was bored, and I was like, I might try and watch the AFL. And I was like, holy schnitz. What's the point of this? The game is over.
Is that why you watched it? Because you were bored?
Yeah, literally. That's no disrespect. I don't know about the game. I don't know anything about it. And I turned it over, and I was like, the game's over. It'd been about 5 minutes in.
No, it was a great victory. Great victory for the Cats. And Jolie Selwood, skip over the Cats. Good way to go out too. Retired. He's a champion AFL player, but he's a really decent bloke too.
4 premierships as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he got a few.
Got
Full
a few.
premiership.
All right, they were our holy schnitz moment. Thanks to Schnitz. Got that winning taste right now. Schnitz, handcrafted schnitzel, made fresh and made just for you. After the break, we're going to wrap the show up and share our final tips for the week of the grand final, but also our final tips of the year. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. The last couple of minutes of the whole year. Now, Smithy, let's get your margin and also who you think's going to win. Then let's get your first try scorer and let's get your Clive Churchill.
All right, I'm going to go Penrith. They're going to win it. They're going to win it by 10 points. I think the first try scorer will be Will Penasini, and my Clive Churchill medalist is Isaiah Yeo.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go.
All right.
Penrith to win by 12.
Yes.
First try scorer, Papali'i,
Oh,
and Clive Churchill, Dylan Edwards.
Dill.
Yep.
Dill Edwards from fullback. I'll tell you what, you can guarantee he will have a monster game.
Oh, that's why I'm going the safe bet.
Yep.
Because he's not going to play poorly,
No.
and he's going to get through a mountain of work, so his increased likelihood of impacting the game is, extraordinary.
There you go.
But
So we both got Penny winning.
Yep. Sorry, Parra fans. Look, if I'm being totally honest, I probably want Parra to win because I like the story.
Yeah.
I like the narrative. I also think that it builds a rivalry too between the West sides.
Yes.
Let's say Penrith are going to be there or thereabouts next year as well. Anything else? Any last final words, Smithy, before the grand final?
Oh, no, just good luck to both footy sides. I think this is going to be a great game. It's nice that we've got, sort of a rivalry heading into this one. It's the Battle of the West, the Golden West. It's sold out already. I think it's been a while since we've had a sold-out grand final. I can't wait. I can't wait for this one.
Smithy, thank you so much for the year, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you to all the listeners. It's been incredible, and we'll see you next season.
Next season. Thank you so much to everyone. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Mark and Kempy. Legend, mate. Thanks for this year.
Thank you. See you all later. Enjoy the grand final.